Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States. Good morning to the world. Good morning to everywhere where our 100,000 watt transmitter gets into the nooks and crannies of every part of Northeast, Southeast Texas, West Louisiana, and everywhere else. Anyway, we're going to have a great show for you today, folks. But before we get started with our surprise guest, well, it's not really a surprise, but with our surprise guest, want to pass it on to the studio to hear how our great brothers are doing, the geniuses of KPFT 90.1 FM.
Well, we're still looking for them. We'll tell them you said hi behind them. And good morning to our special guest this morning. It was a pleasure to have met her some while back on the Dean Becker show.
Yes. Buenos dias.
Thank you, guys.
Jack.
Thanks for having me back. You've also had my son, Jack Jordan, on the Grateful Dead Hour. So we're a family that supports KPFT.
Excellent. We support KPFT. In fact, that's what we've been doing here for the last, couple of weeks now?
Yeah,
almost
8.
Yeah, it's fund drive time, and everybody cringes when they hear it. It's like, oh my God, they're asking for money again. We only do this because we have to. It's a listener support, volunteer powered radio station, which is really kind of cool in itself.
And it's worked for 54 years almost now.
Yeah.
Well, it means you're not beholden to anybody, and that's nice.
There you go.
KPFT has been working longer than I have. So, here we go. Jack, what you got for us this morning?
Well, the word is conservation. We like to live large here in America. Maybe that's our fault. America is, you've heard it before, 5% of the world's population, yet we use 25% of the world's resources, leaving 75% of the world's resources for the remaining 95% of the population. Let that sink in. Instead of spend, we should save. Slow down the money's effervescing up the chain. Good profit is better in the long run than record profit in the shortfall.
Excellent. More wisdom from you.
All right. Let's save. Don't live large. Think about other people in other nations.
Yeah, I work here. I can't afford to live large.
Yeah, I know. If you work at KPFT for Howard's salary or my salary, zero, then, what can I say? But, we're going to have a great show, folks. I'm sorry, Jack, that I can't really say anything about what you're talking about because we have a guest and I can't expand on that even though I wanted to. But anyway, welcome aboard Politics Done Right. District Attorney Kim Ogg, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Egberto, and you?
I am doing fine. Now, DA Ogg, before we as we get started, why don't you tell us what you consider the things that you that you best changed and did for the county as a district attorney for Harris County?
We changed the culture and the face of the district attorney's office to reflect the community. We started hiring from all 3 law schools instead of only 2, as the previous DAs had done. We diversified the leadership and changed the policies related to substance abuse addiction, both for felony drugs and misdemeanor drugs. And we've exonerated 7 people in 7 years. That's never happened before. On the side of traditional prosecution, we've received major verdicts on high-profile murders, serial rapists, and other predators that go after the most vulnerable people in our county, elderly, kids. So working through both a pandemic and a hurricane, I'm the only DA in history who ever faced that. We were displaced to 11 buildings. And the way we got through it was we took our office paperless. It took 3 years and 50 million copies being made, but we did it. And so our lawyers were able to move more easily without having to cart physical files around. And I think we're the biggest office in the country that's fully paperless. So the adversity was turned into, or the obstacle was turned into the way. And we not only survived, we thrived. We just have needed more people because of the caseload. We're the most understaffed DA's office among the top 20. And that's been the nature of my advocacy for the last several years. I started under a Republican court. Now I'm under a Democratic court. And we're just undersized for a county of 5 million people. You can't expect lawyers to have caseloads of 1,000 and do as good a job as they could if they had more help. So I think I've done a lot for the county in bringing to light the under-resourcing of much of the court system. I think we've completely changed policing and enforcement and prosecution of drug crimes. And I think when it comes to traditional prosecution, we've only focused on the people who we must separate to protect ourselves. So you have a very different DA's office today than you did 7.5 years ago. And it's really reflective of a new era of criminal justice, a balanced approach.
Now, what would you like to see in the future I think this would be a third term. For a third term, what would you like to see in the DA? What would you like to change going forward?
Well, I'd like to change the number of crime victims that are out there. Egberto, I deal with people every day whose child was murdered or their husband or wife was raped or something horrible has happened to them. And the delays in the system are sort of insult upon injury. Until people can get justice, they can't properly grieve. And so I would like to see the labs fixed, unified, consolidated so that we get our evidence faster. I would like to see more lawyers and more support staff in the form of social service folks who can help our crime victims on site. We have a lot of help for offenders coming out of the public defender's office. You have relatively little help for crime victims. And I think that disparity, that injustice, creates distrust out there in the community. They don't know whose fault it is. And I don't think blame is what we're after. I think what you want is just improved services so that there's less violence. In terms of policing relationships, I think it's going to be really important in the next 4 years for police culture to adapt to the new way of looking at substance abuse users, mentally ill individuals, and those people who cops come across that are not traditional criminals and yet they have to deal with. And so I think there's going to be some major changes and improvements, and I want to make sure that we drive the conversation and the narrative, that it's not driven against us by people who are panicked at widespread crime. Things are getting better, but they hit an all-time high in 2022 in terms of murder and violent crime. And I think you can't just tell people things are okay. You have to prove it.
Now, I sort of take exception to a lot of. First of all, there's crime, but let me ask it this way. One of the issues I have with how, let's say, Republicans talk about crime is that they talk about it as law and order. We lock you up, we throw away the key, or in that sort of a nature. And I think many people would ask the question, is that really what's happening here? Houston is a metropolitan area of over 4 million people, over 5 million people, actually. And in as much as we consider what we see here as a high crime rate, first of all, I'm from Central America, but I mean, you take a look at other places. Yes, relatively speaking, crime rate high, but I think we have a tendency to scare the American citizenry into thinking crime is more prevalent than it is. As a lead district attorney, do you not see it that these things should be talked about in relative terms and not scary terms?
I'm evidence-based, and what I go by are the statistics. The crime rate is kept by the FBI after states and cities report. It's not a very complete look at what's really happening, but either is 24/7 news coverage of fatal accidents and murders. So media coverage, to some degree, drives talking points of both parties. I don't believe that crime is partisan, and I don't believe that either party should use rhetoric or crime to do anything but inform people. If it's being used to manipulate people, then I think that's wrong. So we look at, for example, the number of cases that we file, and it's been relatively the same, about 100,000 a year. We got to a low of about 88,000 the year Harvey struck in 2017. But for the most part, it's been relatively the same. So I hear many people giving statistics about my office, including my opponent, saying, oh, we filed more and more cases. Not true. We've seen violent crime increase in certain categories. And so you see greater filings there. And you see the advance of technology. Example, we used to file about 250 murders or capital murders each year. Now we're filing about 400. It's not because the murder rate has jumped 150%. It's because cameras and technology are capturing a lot more evidence, and it allows police to solve the cases much faster, which means we can file them faster. So I think it's really important for people to get full information. You know, during political season, the rhetoric is at an all-time high. It's often not based in fact or data. And so that's part of why I came on your show. I've heard so much misinformation by people about our office, and I wanted to set the record straight. So I don't agree with Republican talking points that we're out of control, but I don't like seeing Houston listed by data as one of the most violent cities in the country. That's terrible for our businesses. That's terrible for our morale as a people. So what I would tell you is that these things are very solvable. They do require resources, and people want to feel safe. So I don't believe in trying to BS them and tell them everything's fine when it's not. But I also don't believe in scare tactics to motivate them to do something that's not related to crime, like, you know, vote a certain way. I think crime is something that you're looking more to vote on solutions, not the problem. And what you want out of candidates and elected officials is what we're doing about it. So what we're doing about it is we just triage everybody. The low-end, nonviolent cases, we're handling thousands of them outside the system. You wouldn't know it from the political scene, but we've been doing that for 7 years. Thousands and thousands of people being moved through the system without getting a criminal record that they can't get expunged or non-disclosed, or being moved completely around the system. So that would give people comfort if they have a child that's got a drug problem, or if they've got somebody mentally ill in their family, to know that we're handling it in a way that they don't go to jail beforehand. But I think people also want to know that if their child or their neighbor is murdered, that we're on it, that the police are doing something about it. The labs are cranking out the evidence, and the DAs are prosecuting as quickly as they can. That people just want a system that works, Egberto. I don't believe in this black and white law and order on one side and soft on crime on the other. That's just not the facts. That's not the world.
Okay, let's go to beforehand. Give me a little time here. You know, we're trying to raise some money as well. So let me do a quick pitch, and then we come
Go
right
raise
back.
some money, Egberto.
I'll raise some money. Save KPFT, and we go to Emily afterwards, who has a question. Emily and Mo. Okay. Anyway, folks, please give us a call. 713-526-5738. Extension numero uno. Extension number 1. Look, folks, as you can see, we bring you the news unadulterated. We bring you the facts unadulterated. We brought you the DA today. We brought you her competitor or opponent a few weeks ago. We make sure to keep things as, how should I put it, as objective as possible. So please give us a call at 713-526-5738 and support the program. Right now, I see a big donut, which means settle. Zero. I don't see anything for Politics Done Right yet. What can you give to Politics Done Right? Well, actually, to KPFT in the name of Politics Done Right. I get absolutely nothing. For a $5 a month contribution, a coffee a month. Think about it. A coffee a month, $5 a month gets you an extra, or brings us an extra $50 from a great donor. You can't beat that. $10 a month, 2 coffees a month. You become a sustainer, what we're looking for. If you give us 3 coffees a month, $15 a month. Don't forget the Politics Done Right t-shirt with the logo, with the KPFT logo, is a $100 contribution. And please don't forget that you can have Coffee with Egberto. That's a simple 250 contribution. And again, we're just doing that to try to raise some money for the station. So please consider one of these or one of the many other options we have. Before I go further, let me throw it to the studio to see if they can help me out a bit here. Studio.
Egberto, I was just looking over the placard that they just made about the memory bricks.
Yes.
There are 65 of them right now, and there's room for much more in our plaza. So when you become a sustainer, here's how you do this. Let me reach over and get this thing.
I hear the stretch.
Yeah, well, you're going to hear a bunch of popping and screaming next. We're any further away. Okay, the first 65 memory bricks have been installed. They're beautiful. They're absolutely, this is so good. And there's some very poignant messages on there, memories of folks who have passed before us. Some people had something to say, some people didn't. $25 a month sustainer for the 4x8 brick, $50 a month sustainer for the 8x8 brick. Now, I have one of those, and I got a message for them. I can't say it on the radio. It's not profane or nasty, but it pretty much exemplifies where I'm at. So anyway, any bonus? Let's see. Any bonus that gets any sustainer that gets a brick automatically receives the Caroline Coffee Combo, which is a coffee mug, and the KPFT blend of Lola Savannah coffee. And you know that's going to be good. 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to make your donation to KPFT.
Thank you so kindly, my brother. Anyway, let's go ahead and open up the lines. Come on in, Emily. Come on in, Emily. Emily, you're hot.
Hi, awesome. So I can ask her a question?
Yeah, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. So I wasn't aware about this until the Chronicle covered it, but since then it's kind of been a really big issue for me. So I'm a Democrat here in Texas, Harris County. And according to the article, apparently you hired the Texas GOP General Counsel, Rachel Hooper, and then you paid her $175K to conduct an investigation into Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo. And I just wanted to know, out of all of the great lawyers here in Harris County, why you chose the representative of the GOP to investigate Judge Lena Hidalgo. And then also, according to a Twitter thread, someone put in a request for information and that document was altered. So I wanted to know why you altered that document before people knew what that contract was for.
DA?
Yes, I got it. So Lena Hidalgo's staff was investigated by the Texas Rangers. They continue to be investigated because of the documents that were or were not turned over pursuant to subpoenas from the grand jury. A grand jury is a random group of people who cases are presented to who determine probable cause. They determine if they think a crime has occurred. And while it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, it's only probable cause. That's done by regular people. So first of all, I didn't hire a Democrat or a Republican. I hired Baker Hostetler a firm that was already hired by Christian Menifee. So because they had been hired by the county, it's easier to bring on a vendor that's already been hired than it is to hire somebody completely new. They employed a former prosecutor. My staff is understaffed, especially in public corruption. And I don't think that's necessarily by accident. I think that there are very few DAs in the state that actually are able to prosecute local corruption, because there's so much political retribution when it happens that you get a lot of misinformation, just like the Chronicle put out. They're feeding you the defense theory that this is somehow a politically motivated investigation. I don't know if the Rangers have political motivation. I've never seen that. I can tell you that my lawyers don't have political motivation, but more importantly, I don't know which of my lawyers are Democrats or Republicans. I'm the first Democrat to lead the office in almost 40 years. I was the Democrat that led the ticket in 2016 and helped Beto turn Harris County blue in 2018. But I will tell you that I don't ask the political affiliations of the people we hire. I don't know if that attorney was working for the Republican Party at the time, because I don't believe that people's First Amendment rights are something that I have the ability to quiz them about. This firm was hired as a contractor basically to marshal the evidence, to draft pleadings. The lawyer did not go to the grand jury, and the lawyer did not lead the investigation. We have a team of prosecutors that basically supported the Rangers. And I think what you should be concerned about is when $11 million of taxpayer money is directed to somebody in a way that violates the law, that cheats the public and creates distrust in the public, especially when the money's not fully returned. I mean, there's still 1.4 million out there. So I think that focusing, like the Chronicle did, on linking facts that really aren't related, other clients of Baker Hostetler or their lawyers' personal political views. I just want you to know, we don't quiz people about that. They have a First Amendment right in our office to do anything they want. I treat the contractors the same way. And I don't have any idea if that lawyer was working for the Republican Party at the time. So what I would tell you is, don't focus on trying the prosecutor. Focus on the evidence and be concerned with whether your public money is being handled appropriately or not. That was a response to a complaint filed by an elected official. And we have a number of cases that have to be investigated by somebody under the law. I think the idea that any DA would turn their back on a legitimate complaint against somebody for a partisan reason, either to favor a Republican or to disfavor a Democrat, would be a violation of our oath. And my job and my dedication to the law is just greater than that. So everyone claims political prosecution, including Dr. Hotze, a right-wing activist who's being prosecuted for helping try to prove that the 2020 election was stolen by hiring a group of people who investigated privately somebody they considered a suspect in ballot box stuffing. They ended up holding him at gunpoint and violating his rights. And so that case is being prosecuted too. And of course, their lawyers claim political prosecution. So we get it from both sides. Very little of our work has anything to do with politics, other than at times we help investigators look at election code violations. That's about as close to political influence as we get.
Okay, DA, let me just take a bit of exception. I think earlier on you had gone to the commissioner's court when you're seeking some more money for 100 or so more DAs. I think you said that you don't have enough DAs in your office, why, you may go outside and get some more. Granted.
We don't. Right. We're the lowest staffed DA's office.
By the way, your picture is frozen.
Cities.
Your picture is frozen. Did you move your camera or something? Or okay,
no,
that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, DA, here's
the
my
signal. I think, Egberto.
It's the signal. It's the signal. Oh, there you go. You see, we want to keep your face on the screen. No, anyhow, here's the issue, DA. When you went for that money the first time, and this is something that had driven me crazy, and I know sometimes you say, well, Egberto, why do you allow somebody to say X, Y, Z on your show? And I'm going to give it a couple of examples why. When you went for that money, you showed up with a whole bunch of cops to make a statement. As a lefty Democrat, myself, I almost found that offensive. It's like,
well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. I am the top law enforcement official, but I'm not a first responder. I don't control police. They don't work for me. We're actually a check and balance on the police, just like the courts are check and balance on us. So the time that you're talking about, our rollover money was taken by the commissioners. That knocked out an entire class of young DAs that we were trying to hire after the bar exam in August of that year. The financial moving around of the money was done mostly by taking surplus left over in our budget, which was earmarked for us for hiring a new class. So I went down to protest $4 million being taken out of our budget. The people who came with me were all elected constables. They showed up because money had been taken out of their budget, which cost them officers on the street.
But
now, our fight in government interdepartmentally is always over money, Egberto. I mean, who doesn't want more money for their employees, for their duties to the public? So to say that I showed up with a bunch of cops, I am one of them. I'm just not a first responder.
Right.
We had our money taken. It hurt operations. The time that I came and asked for more prosecutors, first of all, when I was elected, we had a Republican court. I immediately asked them for more money because they were having us use funds that were not meant for everyday expenses. It was illegal. I made that point to the Republican commissioners. They voted by majority at that time to give us the right money, and that had been something that others had fought over forever. When I went to ask for more prosecutors, it's because of the staffing is so it's so disproportionate to the size of the population we serve that when you want to handle things better for people, you need more people to handle their cases, not fewer people. The longer you leave somebody pending in the system, the worse it is for them and the victim. So I made a record knowing I did not have the vote, because I knew this day would come when we had more cases. I didn't know about the pandemic, but I certainly knew that if you looked just like any other CEO at the trajectory of how the city was going, that we would have more cases than we could handle. And that's what's happened. And yes, go ahead.
Let me break it out. And guys, I'm coming right now because like I said, like I told you when we spoke on the phone, I'm super respectful, make sure that we do things in an orderly fashion. Again, the rhetoric that was used then was that, and I think it was very offensive to Democrats, that was we were defunding the police, something that, first of all, I think it was a silly form of wording that when that moniker came out, we should not have used that moniker. What we really meant was intelligent policing. You don't send the people with guns for something that a psychologist should be doing, that sort of a thing. Now, it was problematic to me as a person to hear the word used against, let's say, the commissioner's court, that you're trying to defund the police, when in fact, from a numerical, mathematical point of view, you were actually receiving more money, as well as these constables were receiving more money. So you can say that it was real.
No, we were not.
I saw the numbers.
A bunch of smoke. That's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. The data doesn't support it. What actually was done for law enforcement was done countywide. They gave countywide increases in funding for for insurance and for benefits and for a cost of living raise, not increased money for salaries, not increased money at that time, not increased money for more prosecutors. So this nonsense about you received more in gross income, of course we did, because everybody in the county received more in certain years. But no, we have not been increased. And the reason that I can't say why law enforcement chiefs, both Democrats and Republicans, said that they were defunded. But I can tell you that when you took $4 million out of our office, when the commissioners did, to fund other things, it really screwed up the staffing because that money was earmarked. We didn't keep getting more money. That's a perpetrated misinformation piece that I object to.
Okay, I'm going to leave that one alone and just say in the absolute, and let's agree, in the absolute, you got more money, but in a county that people don't want to pay more taxes. Everybody generally.
I don't agree. You cannot just look at the gross bottom line and say, well, because they gave cost of living increases and increased the amount that they provided the departments for insurance, that we got more money. No, the public defender got a lot more money, but we did not get a lot.
So that we can get more callers. And I just want to say that, I have some other questions on that later on, but let's go ahead and bring people in. And I'm going to ask everybody, because the phones are full now, I'm going to ask everybody to be very civil and quick with any question you have. And I'm going to ask our distinguished DA to be quick with the answer to your particular question. So let's go ahead and go to Brian first. Come on in, Brian.
First off, thanks for coming in and talking to us. You had the endorsement of Jim McIngvale, which he's a very conservative Republican. And it's not shocking that he stepped out of his Republican status to endorse the correct candidate. And that's the difference between voting en masse from the Democrats, no matter who the candidate is, versus who is best for the job. That separates the Republicans from the Democrats. And
okay, Brian. Thank you for your narrative. I knew you were going to say that, and that's why I called on you right out of order. But real quick, Brian, you're speaking to one of our great Republican callers here on Constancy to our show. Anything else you want to say, Brian?
Some of the veterans will never forget that Lena Hidalgo had endorsement of Hanoi Jane.
God.
Lena Hidalgo's mental childish mentality.
All right, Brian. I actually like Miss Jane Fonda as well, but we'll talk about that another time, Brian. Okay. Thank you for calling in, my brother. Let's go to let's see, Donald. Come on in, Donald.
Good morning. Thank you for being on the program. How are you guys doing today?
Great, and thanks for calling in. Make sure you give KPFT some support.
Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome. Trying to help you guys. I contribute myself. Our family does, but we want everybody to contribute to KPFT.
Thank you. And beforehand, I want to say, Randy, thank you so kindly for that contribution. We have a sustainer. Thank you for that. We need a whole lot more. Give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension numero uno, extension number 1 to donate. Come on in, Donald. What you want to say real quick?
Yes, ma'am. What is available that you guys have available for the 17 to 25-year-old individual on a plea bargain? Is there any more court regimented intensive probation programs or anything of that nature left? Or has that all been done away with?
Just the opposite. Everything's been expanded. We have 2 pre-charge diversions, meaning you never go to jail, you don't have any record. That's for any marijuana possession under 4 ounces. And that's also for anybody with a mental health history who is charged with a nonviolent low-level misdemeanor. In terms of the types of pretrial intervention programs we have, for felony drug offenders, we have a whole court that deals with anyone in possession of under 4 grams of controlled substance. And for all other misdemeanor offenders, as well as some felony offenders, we have pretrial intervention programs dealing with theft at a low level, dealing with domestic violence where there's no major injuries. And so we offer people a way through the system without a permanent record approximately 20,000 times a year out of about 100,000 cases. So the dismissal rate, which I've been criticized for, is actually a reflection in part of all of the pretrial diversion programs. Many people don't know what diversion is. On this radio show, they may. But what it means is some alternative sentence, some alternative solution that doesn't leave a person with a criminal record. So that's been one of the major accomplishments of the last 7 years, is that thousands and thousands of people each year have avoided criminal histories, making their opportunities fewer because of these programs.
Thank you, Donald. DA, I do want to take an exception to that in that you did go after a whole lot of judges who you deem to be quite a bit lenient in I think you called a few of them that they are against the prosecutors.
You'd have to show me. I've never said anything like that. What I've said is
Bynum.
Well, Judge Bynum was removed. He has been reversed about 28 times. And I would say he's a self-admitted system anarchist, but I've never called him a name. I don't do that.
I think you just did.
He's a self-called. I told you that's what I've read. He called himself that he was going to destroy.
But there's Johnson. I could name 5 of them, but I just wanted to mention that I think that we haven't separated. Let's say in your case, the portion as a prosecutor, and to some extent blaming some of the judges for let's say release.
No, not
have you blamed? What did you do?
I am not responsible for the decisions on bail, but most people think that the DA sets bail. The DA does not set bail. All we do is advocate for public safety and return.
No. Let's be clear on that one. Actually, let's get clear on that one, though, DA. You can actually force a judge based on, not force, but you can actually, I don't remember the form number to say, well, look, this person definitely must not be released because they are a danger to society.
Egberto,
you have that power, right?
Just a moment. I have the power to advocate. I do not make the decision. Only a judge has that power. So look up Article 17 in the Code of Criminal Procedure. Judges set bail. So it's not going after somebody to say their record on bail is X, Y, or Z. That's a fact. That's what advocates do. But I have not on record as attacking our judges, although they feel, I'm sure, attacked because
I feel that way. And I watch you. Look, you're a very competent DA. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I do see that when you don't get your way, that in effect, you do lash back. And I think you did a lot of that with judges. And I don't know that,
all I will tell you is everybody's got their own record. Everybody's got their own record.
Right.
So I'll stick with my record, which is asking for repeat violent offenders to be held without bail or to be held on sufficient bail. But I'm not going to agree that I've attacked people when I know that ethically we're not supposed to criticize judges for a particular case. We can say they didn't admit the evidence. We can say we think the bond is too low, but there's no name calling. There's just record keeping. We keep records of our actions. Their records are bail, judgments, plea bargains. And so nobody should be afraid of their record. And if they feel attacked, then what is happening is their record is being attacked. It happens to me all the time. All I'm doing is pushing back, trying to give you the facts that as we see them and as we know them.
And that's why you're in KPFT, because we can have a honest conversation, right? Now, I'm coming to you guys on the phone. We have quite a few more on the phone, but I want to touch on something else, cash bail. There was a time that you were for, in fact, cash bail, where, in other words, if somebody comes in with a misdemeanor, you shouldn't have to pay some bonds dude to take away your income to get this stuff done, right?
And I'm still for that. I'm still agreeing to no cash bonds for misdemeanors, with the exception of the misdemeanors that cause public safety concern, domestic violence, DWI, stalking. So I've always been for that, and we've supported that. What I'm not for is the release of repeat violent
criminals.
Offenders.
I don't think anybody, and I don't think any judge wants to release somebody who's going to commit the crime. And I think a lot of the narrative tends to blame these judges for, well, they were easy on crime. When the laws are made in Austin, Texas, you are the enforcer of the law, and they are the interpretation of the law. But, yes. So I think there's a bit of, in the entire discussion, some disingenuity there. But let's go ahead and talk about bail and crime, because the truth of the matter is, I think you'd said this as well, that somehow crime rate has increased. How should I say this? With the release of misdemeanor crime, with the release of misdemeanors, where all studies says otherwise.
Okay. We released a report that said people released on certain misdemeanors violated their bond over and over by committing new offenses. That was the evidence that supported there were problems with the way that bail reform was implemented by the misdemeanor courts. Doesn't mean that bail reform was wrong. Doesn't mean that I'm for keeping people in jail who can't afford to get out, especially when they're charged with a nonviolent crime. I'm not. I never have been. And yet, if you look at what's being said about my record, I'm always misquoted on that. So just to clear up the record, nobody should be kept in jail for any misdemeanor simply because they can't pay bail, just like nobody should be released without an appropriate consideration by a judge of the public safety and of the victim's safety. So we've always been for a balanced approach. But what happened is you saw a lot of people early on given bond after bond, even though they committed new crimes. That was a problem. That was a problem for the public. It's a problem for your listening public, because the victims are generally in underserved communities. The victims of these folks are usually Black and brown. The victims are often women and children. And so in these domestic violence and DWI situations where people were getting out over and over and over, I thought it was bad for the public.
I do get that, but let me just say that the actual, we started the conversation where we said we were data driven. The data absolutely says that misdemeanor bail reform has absolutely not increased the crime rate. That is actually a statement of fact. But I have a question from, so I need that left into
just a second, Egberto.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're quoting bail monitors, and there's not proof that it increased the crime rate. No one said that. Mm-hmm. That's a generalization, and those terms are important. What I would say is it increased the risk for certain people when offenders were released over and over after committing new crimes, whether they were violent misdemeanors or whether they were violent felonies. But really, it's important to take all this nonviolent misdemeanor conversation should go away. Nobody is for keeping people in jail, and there are no people in jail.
We're close on time, and I want to get a question in from a caller, not from a caller, but from somebody on the line. I mean, on the chat that says, like other Democratic DAs in Texas, why didn't you stand up for women's rights to choose when you had a chance by saying you would not prosecute women under the abortion law? And I think I know what your answer is going to be, but please proceed.
The answer was it was a trap, and every one of those DAs has had to walk those statements back. That letter was used to cram a bill through that says if we have any kind of written policy or oral statement about refusing to prosecute a category of crime, quote, abortion, that we can be removed. I wasn't going to expose the women of Harris County to a potential Republican replacement who's pro-life. If I'm removed from office, my opponent says he's protecting women's rights. Let me tell you, I went to Washington and marched for my reproductive rights on my time, on my dime. I'm a woman and have been a gay woman all my life who's very interested in women's rights. So to be mischaracterized in that way when what I'm doing is trying to protect Houston women.
Can I say,
I
want to be presumptuous. I want to be presumptuous here.
It's offensive.
I want to be presumptuous here in stating that I know who you are, and I think I know what your values are based on knowing you for years or following you for years. But I do think many times in your role, remember in speaking to you, I told you nothing that I ever say is personal. It's all policy, all policy. I do believe that many a times our politicians, because of certain types of triangulations, do certain things, whether perceived or otherwise. But I need to go for 2 minutes to our station manager, who's going to say, give Egberto some money or we're going to throw him off of the air. So brother Sandy, get on with the program, my dear manager. I thought Sandy was here. Okay. I don't hear. There you are. Thank you.
Yeah. Sleeping at the switch. Almost.
Wake up, Sandy. Wake up. Kim told me earlier, you mean people listen at 5 o'clock? 6 in the morning? Yes. You notice how many calls we get? All right. And we still have a bunch more to do. Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah. A lot of people are listening. And of course, you got a pledge earlier from Randy J. in Houston, cracking the ice. And also to Cherry and Siggy for donating last night on Open Journal. I saw the slip of paper that pledge was written on. So in today's column, we have a couple of people that will be noted for the system. One was really last night, but folks, we need you to join in at 713-526-5738. Hit option 1. You don't like the phone, go to kpft.org and click donate and do your part to support community radio so that we can have these essential conversations such as the one this morning. Good morning, DA Og. It's good to hear your voice. Sorry that we're not in the same room this time.
Hey, keep working to keep Egberto on the air.
See, I got an endorsement.
Everybody give some bucks.
Yes, we do need it. 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Please, folks, please donate to the program. Okay, Michelle, please. Facts show that crime has increased even in misdemeanors. Look, the one thing that we do at Politics Done Right is we talk factually. You are simply wrong if you believe that these crimes have increased based on if the crime rates have increased. Okay. That's a false statement. We don't do that here. All right, let's go to Stephen. Come on in, Stephen.
Good morning, Egberto. Good morning, Tim. I have to say that I initially voted for you twice. Sadly, I don't think I'll be able to go forward with that. In particular, one of the reasons is this. Stephen Goins and the other gentleman that you have indicted for quote-unquote murder is not receiving a good and proper justice. And that is to say that if they were treated as the common men that they essentially are, they would be tried for capital murder along with the other the total 12 defendants that ran in on that couple in the Heights. This is the same mistake that is being made with the January 6th committee, in that anybody charged with a felony that results in the death of anybody is then charged with capital murder. This is systemic across the United States of America. And I think you are very much missing the point of that prosecution by allowing that to happen, and as much as you also are holding your feet and not moving forward with this prosecution.
Okay, Stephen, let her answer, Stephen, because we have a lot of other people, but I appreciate and thank you so kindly for your call, my brother. DA?
Gerald Goins was indicted by a grand jury for murder. His partner, Stephen Bryant, also indicted for tampering with evidence, and then 10 other officers were indicted for a variety of overtime, theft, and tampering with records charges. The judge in the case was recently arrested for domestic violence in Galveston. The judge in the case sets the schedule in the trials. We're ready for trial in the Harding Street matters. To the best of my knowledge, we are, and we look forward to presenting that case in court. And while I hope to earn your vote, I respect everybody's right to make their own decision. I came on the show, thanks to Egberto, to set the record straight. So I want you to know that I believe that the people at Harding Street, the victims, deserve justice. I believe that Regina and Dennis were regular people whose rights were violated. And Gerald Goins is the one who filed the false affidavit, according to our evidence and charges. And so he will be tried for murder. It's interesting that the feds haven't moved to touch him. They have much stronger laws, and they have a much easier burden when it comes to civil rights cases. So I'm disappointed that the federal prosecutors haven't moved forward faster.
Why do you think they didn't?
You'd have to ask them.
Okay, I think we can assume, but I mean, let's go ahead and bring Bard into the conversation. No, Lisi, come on in, Lisi. I think Lisi was before Bard.
Hey, good morning, Kim Og, and good morning, Alberto.
Good morning, Lisi.
Hispanic. Hey there. I'm a 60-year-old Hispanic female. I was a precinct judge for many, many years, a Democratic precinct judge for many years. Kim Og has my vote. The situation with Lina Hidalgo is that Kim Og was doing her job. There was a weird contract that happened. It needed to be investigated. I don't know who's guilty or innocent, but it needed to be investigated. So thank you very much. Bye-bye now. I'm going to hang up, okay?
Thank you very much for calling in, Lisi. Now, since you opened the door to Hidalgo, you know I'm going to say something, okay? Now, here it is, DA. I'm always measured in the way I say things. There are a lot of things that go on in county government and otherwise. I know nothing about the contract that was spoken about, but I'm pretty darn sure that if you want to prove illegality there, you have a whole lot of work to be able to do that. That said, it seems, and I'm going to speak to you now, I'm going to take my host hat off and talk to you as a Afro-Latino Caribbean man. And this is where I'm going. Looking from my eyes, and first of all, this is nothing that I'm saying on you as the person, but you as the politician. The doctor that gave out some drugs for the COVID vaccine, I can't remember his name right now, Rodney Ellis, Lina Hidalgo, our high-profile cases that you picked up. Looking from the outside, and I don't like to racialize things, but looking from the outside, it seems like there was reason. Let's even assume that there was a tacit reason for you to go after these folks. I could name you 3 or 4 others that would have become high-profile cases that your office let slide. I know you're the DA and have a lot of other people working under you.
No. Let me.
No, but let me finish. Let me finish.
I mean, you're saying you're accusing me of letting cases slide. Here's the thing, we can't let cases slide, and so all of those cases were based. They weren't cases; they were investigations. We are not a primary investigating agency. We are not an investigating agency primarily. So we support through warrants and subpoenas investigations by law enforcement, traditional first responding agencies like the Rangers. So what I want to tell you is all those were filed as complaints. Dr. Gokal's case was called in by Lena Hidalgo's office as a complaint by the health department. When cases result in no bills, that means the system worked for them. The grand juries didn't think a crime occurred. But would you rather have one person, me, making a yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down decision on those people?
In some cases, look, I have enough confidence in you that in some cases I would want you to do that. And the reason why, the reason why is all these people were no billed, and I think in your heart, you probably could have had them no billed without any political implications. But let me tell you what it looks like. And the reason I brought up who I was.
Wait. That implies that I control grand juries.
No, actually you do. No, you do. No, Miss DA, you have a lot of power. You are the most powerful, powerful legal entity in this county. And not only are you the most powerful, you're the most persuasive when you go into a grand jury room. You know that. I know that.
I'm just not going to agree that grand juries are fixed. When you tell people that, they don't have any faith in the system. Why should they even bother to show up? If you tell them, I can get somebody indicted, wrong. Evidence is what is presented to a grand jury. If we make up evidence, we go to jail. And so to say that we control the grand jury system that took 30 years of liberal activism to make random is to just spit in the face of Johnny Mata and a lot of us who worked, Carol Alvarado, who worked to change that law. So yes, the DA has a lot of influence. What I would tell you is their job, though, is legal, not political. It has to be based on evidence. So we can't just make something up. But if you want a DA that will just make a thumbs up or thumbs down decision, then you're going to get some very political decisions. I would remind you, the people that you named did get no billed. You know who got true billed? Dr. Stephen Hotze, a very prominent,
I know him,
white Republican. Mark Aguirre, the former police captain of the Kmart raids who violated a ton of people's civil rights. He was hired on this ballot box stuffing scheme. And so you also have Republicans who have been indicted by grand juries for election-related or public corruption type cases. So what I would tell you, Gilberto, is I don't think you want a DA who's going to act like Caesar and make a thumbs up or thumbs down decision. I think you want to leave those decisions to the community. And again, whether Lena Hidalgo's staff is guilty or not, that'll be determined by a regular jury. But what the grand jury has said is they think they committed a crime. That's all they've said. But they will stand trial, whether I'm the DA or not. Those public corruption cases will move forward because people made legitimate complaints and grand juries acted.
Okay. Miss DA, I hear you, Miss DA, but I still think there are times when more discretion should have been used. More discretion, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. Not worth anything, but my opinion that with the black man, what's his name? Hervis Rogers. You notice I told you I was going to get a little bit racial here as an Afro-Latino Caribbean man, and the reason why is as follows. Let me tell you what I thought about when I saw the Hervis Rogers.
Well, first of all, why don't you
don't let me finish, my dear.
No, but he was indicted in Montgomery County is the one who filed that.
Miss DA, no, that was the Attorney General of Texas who filed
in Montgomery.
Yes.
Montgomery County.
And the judge says that he could not the Attorney General didn't have the power to do so. Now the Attorney General then came to you and brought the case to you, right? And you went ahead and made this guy without him knowing, go through the grand jury system. You could have looked at it because he was not indicted. Again, he was not indicted, and therefore he didn't have to go. I think they tell me I can go a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay, there's no problem. So here's the deal. When election complaints are filed, there's another law that says we have to investigate. Remember, we're not the investigators. So we have to find somebody to do it. In that case, there was really nothing to substantiate the charge other than kind of raw allegations that were, I can't say what they were, but they were filed and it required us to act. So the act came out just. He was no-billed. He was not taken before a grand jury. His case was simply presented so that you didn't have a Democratic DA being accused of making a Caesar-like thumbs up, thumbs down decision on an election case. People are really concerned about the sanctity and the integrity of their elections. So we put things to the community because I believe in empowering the community to make these decisions. That's my discretion.
I have to make an announcement. Could you make that announcement for me, Sandy, please? Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Egberto. For those of you with digital watches, you will notice it's 7:01 and where's democracy now? We're going a little bit longer with this conversation this morning. This is essential. I want to thank DAOG and Egberto for getting together on air today on community radio. I'd also like to thank Gloria for her contribution, Jay for his contribution and taking a deadbeat t-shirt, and also to Randy, Jay, for getting things going this morning. And in all of that, I will remind people that the first pledge to come in from Randy was a sustainer pledge. It will be matched with a $50 bill from an anonymous donation. And also, Randy, your name is now included in the drawing for a pair of tickets to go see Lyle Lovett and Jesse Dayton on the 20th of April at Anderson Fair. Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandy, for that, DA. And I thank you for staying a few more minutes with me. I think we're having a healthy, civil conversation here that everybody can hear. Now, let me tell you why I was so distraught with the issue with Purvis. As a Democrat, that there is a whole lot of voter suppression that goes on. And when I say a whole lot, I mean in not the way that people see voter suppression, but Purvis, that had a chilling effect on many people because now, should I vote? Should I not vote? Will they come after me? Will they not come after me? Not everybody is as sophisticated as you are or many other voters. So I think when a Democrat comes for somebody like, let's say, a Hervis, I think the least that should be done there is to say, folks, this is a special situation or something, because I can tell you that left a chilling effect. And again, there are things that when I look and I say, see things through my eyes. Because when you see things through my eyes, as who I told you that I was, things take a different shade. One has to be careful. When we see that even if it's no bill, that you go after prominent minorities, whether Latinos or Black, and I fit both profiles, that's what I'm saying. The perception that one sees is that, wow, our Republican brethren are going to love seeing that because you tied all the dots together. We get a little bit of voter suppression. We get a little bit of attack on these people. Yeah, go ahead, please, dear.
I want to share, your perspective is very valuable, and I respect it, and I can see it. I love other people's perspectives. As a gay woman who is the top law enforcement leader in a culture that is traditionally rejecting of people like me, as well as you, it's very important that I follow my oath to the law. If I simply say, well, this person is fill in the blank. And so I'm not going to do my job and turn this decision over to the people of a grand jury, who, by the way, I trust the people. I trust the people in this election, whichever way they go. I trust the people on juries, whichever way they go, because our job is not just to convict, it's to seek justice. The best way you get that is in the community through their verdicts, not through decisions by a Democratic or Republican elected DA. While our job is elected politically, the actual work is legal. So my perspective as a gay woman is that as a female leader, we're held to completely different standards. So for me to just be Caesar-like and make decisions because somebody is a particular ethnicity, national origin, party is wrong. It's the exact kind of justice you don't want.
DA, one of the reasons.
You want justice based on facts.
DA, one of the reasons that I had the conversation with the tonality that I have is exactly for that reason, because women are judged on a different platform, because our LGBTQ brothers and sisters are judged on a different platform. And that is why I think one holds you accountable, because you know what it's like. You know what it's like. Okay,
and
so let's go to
Mo. And
that's
why I trust our people to make decisions, and I trust that the community would rather have a plurality decision than somebody playing God because we've been elected.
Let me go to Mo. I appreciate that. Mo, come on in. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. I just my eyes crossed on you. Come on in, Mo.
Thank you, Egberto, and thank you for having me on here. Yes, I have a question for DA Og. I appreciate that DA Og stated that he has effects on policing agencies. Will he release the intake calls with policing agencies that end up with charges for the accused to help lessen the public erosion of trust by having intentional transparency? Don't the public and victims deserve to hear these calls?
I had trouble understanding that question, Egberto.
Yeah, I did too. Could you speak slower? Okay. Maybe a bad connection.
Okay, yeah. No, I said I appreciate DA Og stating that she is a check on the policing agencies. Will she release DA and take calls with policing agencies that end with charges for the accused to help lessen the public erosion of trust by having intentional transparency?
I think he said he appreciates you having intentional transparency. Did I hear you right, Mo?
Oh, sorry. Maybe it's my signal's bad. No, I was asking what to release the DA and take calls for people that charged with crimes.
It's called CJIS information. By law, we can't release data or information received from law enforcement about individuals suspected of crimes. Can't be done.
Oh, okay. Thank you. What's that called again?
It's called, it's criminal justice information, and its release is limited by law, both federally and statewide.
Okay, let's go to, thank you, Mo. I have to kind of speed up because we're about to end time. Bart, come on in.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I was just wanting to let DA Kim Og know that I'm a concerned taxpayer here in Harris County, and I want to know, you mentioned the $1.4 million that Elevate Strategies took. Can we get that back, and how can we go about that?
That would be up to the auditor and our county attorney. And I think that it should be recovered. Our job, while we try to get restitution for victims, including taxpayers, our job is basically to prove the case. The money that's still outstanding really should be returned. And I can't speak to because of my limitations under law, I can't speak to how that money's being handled or how it was presented. to the auditor, but I think it's something that really bears review by the county attorney, and that the auditor ought to do his job. And if there's money to be returned to the taxpayers, that he should get it.
I want to chime in here. Remember, this organization was not found guilty of anything. Okay. So it is important. I mean, Bard, that is realized. Maybe somebody knew somebody. Hold on a second, Bart, please, my dear brother. Maybe somebody knew something, or somebody of the other, whatever. Sadly, this is a mainstay in county government. I am sure many of the people that our sister here hires, Kim, she knows them on a social basis. And they got the job because they were both competent and because she knew them. So criminalizing that you're hiring people that you're rubbing shoulders with should not be done. And that is one of the issues I had.
Didn't you accuse me of cavorting with Republicans?
Yes, I
I'm
did.
Suggesting is no one. The evidence of relationships is not what's at issue in the corruption case. It's whether or not money was directed to someone intentionally in violation of a process that's intended to be fair for all the vendors. And you forget UT Health, who has thousands of employees trained in healthcare, was passed over for this single woman firm who did not have employees. And so I can't really go into, as you know.
No, I get it. I get it. Look, DA, I get it, and I wouldn't want us to. But what I guess I'm arguing is that there was nothing different in count. Look, I'm not saying that it's absolutely right or not, or it's. But this sort of stuff. That's not
the county government that we want.
Oh,
you want a county government that's fair to all of the vendors.
No, I don't. You're absolutely right. But what I'm saying is, when Bard enunciation made it much different than it really is. But Bard, I got a pitch for a minute before I tell Kim, thank you for being on with us. So anyway, people.
One more question.
No, I think we're done with that for now, my brother, but we'll talk later. You know you have carte blanche here. 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Please support Politics Done Right. 713-526-5738. Look, folks, Sandy, do you have something to say before we close this baby down?
I want to thank your listening audience for supporting KPFT. I want to thank you, Egberto, for giving me the opportunity to present a perspective from your top law enforcement official who supports 14,000 cops in the Harris County area and represents nearly 5 million people. I want everybody to know we are dedicated to fairness, not convictions. We appreciate the opportunity that we can give people by not marring their record further. But our primary job is public safety, and we want you, the public, to actually be protected from the people who rip you off, who rob you, who rape your children, and who kill people. And so our motives are good in that we seek your protection and that we seek to keep people in the workforce who deserve a second or third chance. And that's what we do. I want to thank the voting public for supporting me in the past, and I want to ask you to support me again, not because of some popularity contest, but because of my record of making difficult decisions in your best interest, trying to not act as Caesar, an independent decision maker, but a collaborative leader who relies on the community's power to listen to evidence and do the right thing. And I think we see that every day. So I want to give people faith in our justice system and hope in our political future. Partisanship is not the job of the DA, and you will not see partisan decisions by me. And if that hurts me politically, if doing my job means that I lose my job, well, then I leave with a clean conscience, because public corruption and the public trust are the single most important factors in terms of participating in our democracy. And I want to thank everybody for your support.
DA Kim Ogg, thank you so kindly for spending this overtime as well with Politics Done Right. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and I imagine that you're heading out to the polls right now to vote, correct?
Soon as I change shirts.
All right. Thank you so kindly, DA.
Thank you.
All right, folks, let's go to Sandy. Sandy, come on in, my brother.
Thank you, Egberto, and thank you for arranging this morning and for staying so dedicated to the proposition that community radio is necessary and has a resounding voice. As you just heard, DA Og on our airwaves with a very candid conversation, not only with Egberto, but to some of the people calling in. This is the power of community radio. Where else are you going to get this kind of interface in Houston, Texas? 713-526-5738, option 1. A big thanks to Gloria J., to J.A., and to Randy J., 3 people that have stepped up to support Politics Done Right and KPFT this morning. There is room for you. Before we get to Democracy Now! Here in a few minutes, folks, we're coming down the home stretch. I know we're still, at $60,000 away on the surface, but I can feel the pace picking up. And we would dearly, down at KPFT, all of us, like to wrap this thing up as soon as Sunday. If you get on the phone and make that pledge, we're going to get closer to that reality with every call. Do your part. And remember, sustaining pledges, no matter the amount, $5, $10, it's going to be matched with a $50 bill, and your name will go into a drawing for a pair of tickets to go see Lyle Lovett and Jesse Dayton at the smallest of small venues in Houston, Anderson Fair, a fantastic listening room. We'll put your name in a drawing for the 2 last seats in the house. 713-526-5738. Option 1, or kpft.org. We will be 54 years old on the 1st of March, a remarkable feat, and only thanks to the generosity of Houston. Let's not break chain today. Egberto, again, great show. Thank you so much for your hard work. Egberto?
Gee, I don't know where he went.
No, actually, for some reason, my system.
Wait, there's no
I'm here.
Contract. Let's go over the contract, Egberto. You
can you guys hear me now, right?
Very clear.
We can hear you now.
But I tell you, my Bluetooth headset just decided to turn off. I don't know what happened. Anyway, folks, as Sandy, first of all, I want to thank the district attorney for coming on to the program. When we spoke, she said, Egberto, you have been saying certain things, X, Y, Z. And I'm like, well, let's talk about it on air. And she kindly came to speak on air to go and butt the issues. You have to respect that. So thank you, DA Og, for coming on. It's going to be a tough election. Anyhow, please call 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738, extension 1. Please donate, and remember to say it is in the name of Politics Done Right, because we do what it takes. Don't forget those blocks, those bricks. 4x8 brick is a $25 a month contribution. A 8x8 brick is go ahead, Sandy. I heard you want to say something.
On a sustaining basis. Go ahead. You're doing great.
On a sustaining basis, 8x8, $50 a month. It's a great deal. Then, of course, you can have coffee with Egberto. That is $250, and we'll go sit down and have coffee. This is to raise money for KPFT. Also, look, folks, you can afford a $5 a month, a coffee a month for KPFT. You do orders of magnitude over that for your cable TV. Why not come to a place that you have agency in, that it is your station? You know that it is yours. You have a platform here. $5 a month, and you become a sustainer. And it's matched by a $50 contribution if you do that. Likewise, a couple of coffees a month, $10 a month. Please give us a call right now, 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. I only got 1 minute left. So with that 1 minute, I want to thank Howard, Jack, Sandy, for keeping this baby flying. I want to thank the audience for all the calls. I want to thank the chat room for giving for keeping up to speed and giving me a few things to consider. And likewise, the callers, the listeners, love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.